That's right, everyone. If you're hearing that rousing intro, it means it's time for another episode of Tough Hang, episode 2 of MMA Fighting's recap of this ongoing season of The Ultimate Fighter 31, highly anticipated, featuring, of course, the notorious Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, who we do expect to fight in the near future, though that'll be a point of discussion, I feel like, throughout the season, including today. You guys just finished the episode. We had ourselves another finish. The blood is pumping. The adrenaline is going. And I'm very happy that I have my crew here to talk about this. This is Alexander Cayley, and I am joined by my co-host, GC Connor Burks.
How we doing, baby? How we feeling? Another finish, unfortunately not for my guys in blue, not for my boys in blue. But I loved this episode. I was thoroughly entertained as I was going through it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this one. This felt like a solid episode. I assume our third man in the booth with us, as it were, producer extraordinaire E.K.C. Leiden will agree when it is his time to chime in. Look at that enthusiasm. It's a huge Cody Gibson fan.
I am. We'll talk later about that.
Oh, this is true. You have mentioned.
I am actually. Yeah, I saw Cody's last fight. I was there in the venue. I'm a big Cody Gibson fan, but we'll talk more. But I'll let you gentlemen go on first.
No, listen, we could talk about him a bit now because I think last week, I think we took a bit of time to get to the fight. Of course, we want to talk about what did Conor McGregor do in the premiere. Of course, we wanted to get GC's impressions as our top prospect, our relative neophyte to the Ultimate Fighter. But by now, 2 episodes in, GC, your old hat at it. We can skip right to the fight because it just happened. It's fresh in our minds. What did you think of this week's fight? And what do you think of the winner's sort of prospects going forward?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, I was a little bit thrown off because we only got to see 10 seconds of the fight last week because we got the early knockout. So I kind of had to adjust because there's no commentary. All you're hearing is the yelling inside the apex and everything like that. And I actually enjoyed it. That was probably my favorite part of the fight. And then I thought it was a good fight. I mean, I thought it was entertaining. And then that flying knee was like, that was a massive knockout. Like I was sitting on my couch watching and I was like, oh, damn. Like that was good. So, I mean, 2 fights in, we've got 2 exciting knockouts so far.
Yeah, for anyone who didn't catch the result, it just happens to be tuning into our post-fight show. Well, a couple of things that you mentioned. First of all, yes, it was Cody Gibson and why is my mind going blank right now? Cody Gibson and Mando Gutierrez fighting. Cody Gibson winning by first round TKO. Again, they didn't give us an official time, but a very convincing finish. Referee Jason Herzog right on point. Gutierrez and Gibson were stepping in for Trevor Wells and Timur Valiev. We'll talk about that a bit more in a sec. Did you notice, Connor, that Lee Hammond, I had a chance to rewatch some parts of the episode, kind of predicted how the fight was going to go? Lee Hammond being one of Gutierrez's teammates. I think he's on Team McGregor.
Yeah. No, I didn't notice that. I remember him saying something, but I don't remember the prediction that he made. That's a good catch by you.
Yeah, the pre-fight is usually like it goes by in a blur, so I definitely didn't notice it the first time around because they get one guy from obviously each team, and one guy says, well, this guy's a good wrestler, if he gets inside, it's going to be a good win for him. And the other goes, well, this guy's, and so on. I give a very kind of cursory breakdown and not really super insightful. But Lee Hammond, before the fight, actually said, Cody's like a long, tall guy. You got to watch out for those knees up the middle. The exact quote, I should find the exact quote here. He said, them knees are a dangerous weapon, especially if you go into a knee coming up. And if you guys saw that finish, that's exactly what happened is Gutierrez, again, he's a smaller guy, kind of had to take a risk to go inside, kind of steps right forward. Gibson perfectly timed knee on the button, hurts him, and there was no getting back from that. So that was a pretty cool moment. What did you think of the lead up to the fight? Did you have a prediction either way, GC?
No, I mean, it's tough because like I'm kind of getting to know these guys as it goes along. I mean, the size, obviously, and the vet experience of Cody. I thought it was cool how they went through how he fought Aljo and everything. He got a knockout in the UFC and then eventually got cut after losing another fight. I mean, I just feel like it's going to be hard not to side with the veterans going into it until we see one of McGregor's fighters win. But yeah, I mean, the pre-fight, you talked about formulaic last week. I'm starting to pick up on some formula this week. Like it's just like they talk about him, you get to know him a little bit, and then they kind of round back around, and you sort of get to know the other guy as well. It's sort of like they just wind the path. You're going to find out about both guys. They're going to do some prediction. They're going to do some training footage, and then they're going to get into the fight itself.
GC, don't tell me you're getting jaded with the format already.
No, who said I was jaded, man? I enjoyed it. Actually, this will give me my first question that I have for Casey. Did you enjoy the episode more? I felt like we saw a little bit more of the training, a little bit more of the coaches. We got introduced to them, at least on Chandler's side. I felt like this was a little bit more your speed.
You're correct. Last week's episode, the premiere episode, I was not impressed with. This episode, for some of the complaints I had last week, they did address them a bit. There was some coaching. There was a little. I enjoyed the backstory a little more. I especially enjoyed Cody's backstory more. I've seen Cody fight. I was actually at Cody's last regional fight, and it was like a freaking barn burner against Francisco Rivera, another former UFC vet. And I've always felt, I don't think Cody Gibson is a top 10 or top 15 fighter. He's always been UFC caliber. So I expect him to dominate that fight, and he did. And but the show was better. Yeah, I got to see coaching. I got to see. I got to see coaching. I wanted to see more, but it's good. It was good seeing Conor kind of, do Conor do like, you got to do this, and the Conor thing he does, he's really excited. I thought the thing they did with the haircutting thing was cute, kind of ran long, but I enjoyed the guy freaking out because actually my favorite part was how Conor would not stay still for his haircut.
Oh my gosh.
That's gotta be so stressful. You're giving a nice haircut to almost a billionaire. You're just like, stay still, you jerk. So
an international superstar is in the basement of the Tough House, and you're supposed to cut his hair, and his head is darting left and right. He's talking to the people on every side of the room, and just generally being McGregor. And that actually springs a question for me that I was thinking about, like, as it was going on. I mean, McGregor, he's turning and talking to different people. He's looking at his phone. He's checking his watch. He's kind of sitting there. Did it feel like Mando might have been talking too much? And I want to know your guys' opinion on barbers. Like, do you like a barber that holds a conversation the whole time, or would you rather just sit there and just let him cut your hair? I'm right in the middle. I like to catch up with my barber. I think maybe the first 10 minutes, solid talking whatever. How are you? How are things going? How's it been since I last saw you? Some local sports team talk. And then after a while, it settles into a comfortable silence. And then however long is left in the haircut, we just kind of cruise on home. Yeah. This is perfect because I 100% agree with you. It's similar to Uber rides. Like if an Uber driver is going to converse, I want it to be like a couple things, but then we don't force it. If the conversation is going to flow, we let it flow and we just ride with it. Same thing with the barber. But if you're forcing it, like you just start asking questions that are just like the epitome of small talk. It's like, man, I'd rather just sit here, stare ahead, and just kind of relax while I get my hair cut. Casey, your opinion on barbers. Is it convo, no convo, or nice in the middle?
No convo to nice in the middle. I just like to sit still. All right,
I like chill, dude.
I like chill. I just like chill. Like I just go play whatever music you want. I'm good. That's all. I'm a chill guy.
Also, one last thing I have to say about that scene. Just all time classic by McGregor, the stand behind the bar and act like you're going downstairs as the party gag. All time classic. That's
did he do that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was the best part of the entire
he's
episode.
Just like us. He's just like
literally. He's just like me. I mean, that is in my roster.
I want to do the elevator thing. Like, boop.
I mean, how good?
That's amazing. I wrote
the boat.
I specifically wrote in my notes about this whole segment. Conor McGregor, he's just like people. So we were all.
I said stairs trick, all time classic. I also said that I think it's hilarious that as he starts drinking the stouts and you can see his McGregor's team just pouring up stouts in the back. I felt like as it went on, you could tell that the stouts were starting to hit him a little bit. He eventually he goes around just like the drunk buddy at the party. He's just like, we're here, guys. We never thought we were going to be here. Let's just sit back and enjoy it. Let's just have a good time. I thought it was hilarious that he went over and crushed a few beers with the guys.
Yeah, this is
Did you notice Conor didn't show up for the weigh-ins though?
Again.
He wasn't at the weigh-in. Chandler was there, but no Conor again. They didn't even bother mentioning it this time.
This has to become like a more prominent storyline later. So again, his fighters are 0-2, and I'm not saying it's because he didn't show up to the weigh-ins. I mean, we did get Casey. I think they took notes from our show. You did say you want to see a little bit more training. It wasn't like super in depth, but it is fun to see. Because remember, like, yes, Conor did the show before, and he was a star when he did the show before. No question. He was not near the star that he is now. He was not like the household name, legitimate, like, I don't want to say A-level celebrity, but like B-level celebrity, which for a MMA fighter is insane to be a B. I would like to qualify as a B-level, like, mainstream celebrity. He wasn't there yet. Now he is that guy, and it is kind of cool to see him on TV and on the mats and interacting with these guys. And again, nothing in depth, but we got a little more. You know, we got to show a little more.
The most in-depth part I liked, and I kind of wanted to see a bit more. It was when I forget what fighter it was, but he asked Conor, like, "What are you thinking right before the fight?"
Yes,
remember? And Conor was kind of caught off guard by it. He was like, "What?" Yeah. Like he's like, "Oh, you know." And Conor kind of didn't say anything really insightful, but that's why we're watching the show. You know, we're watching the show a little bit to see a fight. But we're really watching the show because we want to see how Conor and Chandler, how they interact with lowly normal fighters.
Sure,
it's just you know, and that's really it's interesting how fighters talk to other fighters, and that's kind of the you know, behind the scenes stuff we want to see. I feel that was good.
It didn't land with me as much. One of my quotes from that McGregor segment was, he was like, "Just let it be. Whatever it is, it is." And then I put next to that, "Not helpful." But I
not only on top of that, he's just like, oh man, I mean, he's just like, you know, it's just, there's so much going on. There's just so much going on in your head. And he's like, but just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. I mean, I did like when he eventually did come around, he was just like, once you get out there, like, you got to let it be known from the jump, like, whose octagon is this? Like, this is your octagon. And also keep in mind that, like, all these jitters, everything going through your head, it's happening in the other locker room too. It's not like the other guy's just sitting there super calm. Another coach fighter interaction that I liked was Chandler and Cody talking about how Cody was adopted and Chandler has 2 adopted sons. I thought that was kind of cool.
That was a nice conversation too.
That was like a cool behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, Cody he is one of 2 adopted children, and he has 2 other brothers who are both have special needs, varying degrees of special needs. But yeah, it's quite a story. We learned a little bit more about both guys' family. But yeah, Cody was talking about brought up with Chandler. He knew Chandler's 2 adopted children himself. So yeah, that was a cool moment. A couple more things just about the fighters. Cody, his first run in the UFC. 1-3, but he fought Manny Gambarian, who's a very tough guy. He fought Aljo, as you mentioned, and DeAndre De Silva. What's his name? Andrade De Silva. And his one win was over. Yeah, Douglas Silva, DeAndre, thank you. And his one win was over Johnny Bedford. So a hell of a tough run. And he's done pretty good on the regional scene since. And I like that this fight gave us a true, like, veteran versus prospect matchup. Like, last week felt a bit weird. Where Nate Jennerman has almost as much like pro. I think he actually has more pro fights and is like a year older than Roosevelt Roberts. So we're like, we understand, we get it. They're saying prospect hasn't fought in the UFC. You're a veteran if you have fought in the UFC. This one was actually veteran. Cody Gibson, 10 years older, much more experience. I wrote Gibson was 23 fights into his pro career when Gutierrez made his debut. Gutierrez just debuted in 2019. And when Gibson made his pro debut in 2008, Gutierrez was 11. So this was a real, like, this felt right. This one really felt right.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I did want to say, speaking of the Roosevelt Roberts and Jennerman fight, I thought it was kind of cool. They showed a moment in the house, like, weird seeing Jennerman and Roosevelt Roberts just sitting in the kitchen together, like, especially after the knockout last week. I also did like the Landon Quinones and Roosevelt Roberts beef. I feel like that's going to start to become a thing throughout the season. Like, they said point blank, like, I don't like you. I don't like hearing you talk. And it feels like that's going to come to blows at some point. I feel like we're going to put in some time episode to episode, and that's eventually going to boil over.
I want to start naming episode MVPs. Was Landon your obviously not including the coaches, talking just contestants, was Landon and I would also say not necessarily obviously whoever won the fight, but winning fighter, non-McGregor, non-Chandler, was Landon your MVP for this episode?
I don't know. I can't decide if I like Landon or not. Like, I
that's good.
I don't love the trash talk. Actually, I have a different MVP. One point I will make, actually, off of the Jennerman and Roberts being in the same room, I might just be looking way too into this, but it felt like every single time, and there was 3 different moments where Jennerman was on the screen, it felt like he walked off, like purposely, like he like looked at the camera and just walked off each time. Like when McGregor was down there giving the haircut, he stood up out of the seat, walked out. Someone was showing pictures of the kids. He's just like, oh, nice. Yep. Knocked on the counter, walked off. I might just be looking way too deep into this.
Yeah.
But my MVP for the episode stemmed from the Landon Quinones beef. And I actually don't even know who it was, but it was when the beef was like, when they were looking like they were coming to blows. Someone was cooking in the kitchen, country accent. And he was just like, man, I'm trying to eat some stir fry.
Jason Knight. Oh, that's my other, I was like, my 2 MVP candidates this episode, Landon and Jason Knight. Because Jason Knight, yeah, he's emerging as the like, man, I'm just here to have a good time and enjoy the free food. Because and free training as well, I guess. Because listen, I'm sure he'll have his story just being away from his family and stuff. But also, they take care of them pretty nicely in the house, right? The only thing is the solitude and having to deal with 15 other jamokes that is the real problem. Which again, I'm not saying that's easy, but other than that, you're really well taken care of. And Jason Knight looks like he's having a great time. We saw him support Gutierrez after. Oh yeah.
Connor, have you ever seen Jason Knight fight? Have you seen his bare knuckle fights?
Nah, I'm too new to
this. That's awesome. I mean, don't watch it till after the season because I don't want to influence you or anything. I want you to kind of take the show as it's presented. But Jason Knight is freaking awesome. I'll just say that.
I mean, just like the super strong country accent, like being from Georgia, I know a lot of people that talk like that. And just like,
he's authentic Mississippi. Mississippi.
He's finding a really good way of, again, he has a cult following, but this is the kind of thing that, again, it's a bigger, if we saw a pretty good number for the first episode, something like 280,000 people watched, I think, which I think for, I guess for ESPN, I don't know if it's not super great. For the Ultimate Fighter, it's not a bad number on ESPN anyway. But yeah, he's really finding a way to insert himself so that, when it comes time for his episode, I think he'll be like, oh yeah, I really like this Jason Knight guy. I want to see him fight.
The stir-fry guy. Yeah.
We saw him after. Listen, we saw him after the fight, propping up Gutierrez. That was a nice moment, right? Gutierrez was kind of sad.
Nice
he was the one reaching out.
Talking to the other team. Yeah.
Yeah. And then episode 1, after Roosevelt Roberts won, he was like, can you autograph my glove, sir? And I'm like, that's a really funny, he's coming off as a really cool guy. And he interacted, I think, with McGregor. I think when McGregor was getting his haircut, I think there was a bit of chatter there. So
well, the vets, at least the vets in the house are kind of the chill. They'll talk to the other team and everything. Yep. But it's the rookies, the prospects who are kind of, mean mugging everyone still.
Yeah.
But the vets are like, save your energy, bro.
Yeah. The only trick about Landon and Roosevelt is I love they're building it up. If they're going to fight, though, on the show, they both have to make the finals. Because Landon, I think, is McGregor's number 4 pick. Roosevelt was number 2 or something. Number 3, Team Chandler. So they have to make it to the finals. However, if they don't make the finals, that's a fight you put right on the Ultimate Fighter finale. Landon Quinones, Roosevelt Roberts. So hopefully we do consider them cross.
Who did you think won that interaction, Connor?
Man, I don't know. I like that Landon's asserting himself, he's not showing that he's scared, but also on the side interviews, he shows a bit of arrogance. He's just no one's on my level here. I already know I'm on my level. I'm on the UFC level. Whether I win or lose these fights, it's not going to prove it to me. It's actually, that's why you're here, to win these fights, to prove you're on the UFC level. So yeah, especially after the way Roberts won his first fight. I'm going to give this one to Roberts, but I'm excited to see the beef maturate over the next few episodes.
Yeah. I really wonder if guys like is it Landon? What's his name?
Yeah, Landon Quinones.
Quinones. How much of that is actually just who he is, and how much of that is him going, well, I'm on a TV show. I gotta 100%. Get myself on camera. I can't just be in my fight episode and not be seen for the rest of the season. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. If he did kind of purposely do it for the cameras, but I guess that's reality TV, So.
Yeah, and again, he was McGregor's 4th ranked bantamweight out of 4. So I'm not saying. Listen, I don't know how good he is. He might win the show, but he, maybe he is getting in on his personality, or he's preparing for a worst case scenario where maybe he loses, and like, hey, at least I'm known as the guy who's tried to stir it up with the veterans. That's not a bad idea. That's honestly, that's not a bad idea.
Every season has that guy. They definitely don't win the show, but they're like the Junie Brownings,
classic. Julian Lanes.
Julian Lanes. Yeah. I don't want to label him yet in that category, but maybe, that last, you make an ass of yourself on the show that you can have a little minor career in the regional scene from it.
You can make money off that. You can make money off that. By the way, Mando Gutierrez was the number 1 ranked McGregor bantamweight. And so he just got knocked off by number 4. Not looking great for the prospects so far. Also, my last note about this fight, guys, not looking great for fighters whose dogs are showcased before the fight. 0-2 so far. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hate to bring it up. I know there's a lot of dog lovers out there. I know you guys are crazy about your dogs. Nate Jennerman, his 4 3-legged dog, he wanted to win one for the 3-legged dog, did not go his way. We got even more of Gutierrez's dog, Harley. Harley, by the way, sadly excluded from his pre-fight prayer, so maybe that's something to do with it. But we saw a lot of Harley. He takes Harley everywhere. So now we didn't see anything with Cody Gibson's dog. Maybe he has one. I don't know. Didn't mention it. But yes, fighters with dogs featured. 0-2.
That's a great point, and like is a very cute dog at that. I mean, following around the barbershop, everything. On the flip side of that, I do have to say it's no curse, but we do need to monitor that dog thing. That could actually be something serious moving forward. Cody meeting his wife in college and sliding into her MySpace DMs is all-time stuff. I mean, that is elite. Tom would be proud somewhere wherever he's retiring, taking pictures. I mean, we love Tom here on Tough Hang, but that threw me off when he was just like, he's like, yep, I slid into her DMs on MySpace. I was like, fuck it hell, man.
So many people watching this show, and Mando Gutierrez, I bet, have no idea what that is.
Yes, like
don't understand MySpace.
I'm fairly young, not 30 yet, but I was on the cusp of where in middle school, I mean, all the rage was like, who's in your top 8? What music do you have when you go to the profile? Like, I remember MySpace. It was, the OG.
Wait, Connor, do you know what Friendster is?
I do know what Friendster is, but I never had one. My older brothers both had Friendsters. That's like the OG.
Yeah, Friendster. We're getting way off topic now, but Friendster was my introduction to social media. Yeah.
Well, no problem. I'll bring it back. I will just let's cover just a couple more topics before we get out of here. I always make a point to list McGregor Chandler interactions. We didn't really have any this week. I don't think. Are you guys disappointed about that? I actually didn't notice when the episode was over and didn't really care. But this fight is in such a weird space right now.
Did you know? The first episode didn't have a traditional opening, right? This one actually had an opening to the show where they introduced all the fighters, right? Yeah. So this one, of course, in the opening, they had the push in the opening.
Yep.
So,
right. Yeah,
so,
kind of like push.
I'm starting to think that's all there is. I'm really starting to think that's all there is.
Well, I mean, I said last week when we started, like I had seen that "You'll Do What You're Told" clip like 900 times before we actually got to see it on the show. So there's a world where, like they're going to use that shove 900 times again, and it'll come in like the 12th episode.
Yeah. No interaction this episode. Not that we saw anyway. Again, I don't know what happened this week. There might have been some stuff that they edited out of order too. Maybe something happened this, early in the show, and they're just saving it for a later episode. It's entirely possible. But again, and I mentioned this, I asked this last week, like with sort of this ongoing drama, a lot of people just keep speculating online of whether they think this fight's going to happen. I don't think necessarily what does or doesn't happen on like what they choose to show on the show is going to affect that. But it is kind of weird that there's really not a lot of McGregor Chandler emphasis in the first 2 episodes. Very, very little. But it doesn't bother me. I don't know how you guys feel about it. GC?
Well, it didn't. No, I mean, it didn't bother me. I felt like the characters of the show, the actual contestants, carried it pretty well this week. And I mean, we still got to see a decent amount of both Conor and Chandler. Conor obviously going to the house, Chandler working closely with his fighters, as well as Conor doing some training sessions. So like, I felt like we still got our share. Just the head-to-head we didn't really get to see, which doesn't really bother me. I do hope that we get more as the season goes along, but so far as it goes with this episode. I enjoyed it without it.
Did we see them all together when Dana announced that the fight was off? Was Connor and Chandler?
Oh, we should talk. We should talk about that.
Yeah,
a little bit. GC, how did you feel about the episode starting off in such a jarring way? When you saw that they were immediately, did you think they were going to like flip the show and do the fight first, or did you?
I was so excited. I was
Me
like,
too.
Oh my God, they're gonna start the fight.
They're changing the format.
I'm glad we all agreed with that, because my first note on the page is, oh shit, we're right into the fight. I was like, oh, we're gonna get to see Tamir fight, and then maybe
they watch our show.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like maybe we'll just get 2 fights on this one, and like we'll have some fun. But yeah, and then obviously it ended up being the cold sore. I kind of got a kick out of like everyone being like, what is it? Like, what is it even a medical thing? Like, we have no idea what it is. And then they go to interview Trevor, and like the second you see him, it's just like, oh, like that's staph, cold sore, whatever that is. Like, that's why he's not fighting. Like, it took 2 seconds to diagnose that. But yeah, that was kind of a bummer, because I like right when we jumped in, I was like, let's go, Tamir time. Like, can't wait to see him fight. But it was cool to see how they handled it behind the scenes,
And that reaction shot when I think Chandler tells Timur the fight was off, and he was like, "What?" I thought. Look at the shot.
Like he had the wraps on. He's in the middle of stretching, and Chandler comes down, and it's just like, obviously, Casey, you've been through it before. You've made the walk. You train all the time, but like, I just can't imagine the adrenaline, like the emotions you have pent up when you know you're about to fight, and then just like to have it not happen. Like on a much smaller scale. Like, I imagine it like you're hyped up, you took some pre-workout, you're about to go work out, and then you get to the gym and it's closed, and you're just kind of like, what do I do with all this energy now? Like, I just can't imagine getting told you're not about to fight. It's got to be the craziest feeling. It's got
to be super crazy, and then you have to add upon that the idea that and they didn't show it in the show, but these guys have to do big weight cuts.
Yes. Yeah, they talked about it, but they didn't show it. Yeah.
But they don't show it. So you don't really see how difficult these weight cuts are for these for a lot of these fighters. Some of these fights, like someone like Jason Knight's kind of fighting above his weight class. He's normally a 45er. He's fighting 55 for this. Mm-hmm. But Timur is always a 35er. So I'm pretty confident he cuts. Like, he can't just cut weight like the next week. So once he kind of soaked in the news that the fight was off, and they said might move the fight the next week, and he was all like, "But wait, what? Wait, that was the that was the big that was the biggest concern, not the actual fight, but like, I have to make weight again." And then then Dana kind of said we can maybe make it a catch weight, But those are things we want to see, I think, as viewers, those kind of moments, and that was neat.
There's a sick part of me that hopes there's some sort of weigh-in drama, only not because I wish that upon the fighters. I never would. But GC, if that weigh-in drama was a hallmark of some of probably the first 6, 7, actually for a while, 6, 7, 8 seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. Just when I think people didn't quite have a full grasp of the show, both fans and the fighters themselves, of what it meant. Now people understand. A lot of fighters understand. Oh, I have to make weight like X amount of times, a certain amount of weeks. So I'm going to prepare myself in a certain way, or I'm going to come in at a higher weight class like Jason Knight. So it's not as much of an issue. But back then, I think guys didn't know. And there was just horrible episodes just dedicated. I say horrible in a really great way. It's my favorite episodes, dedicated to guys trying to make weight. And I hope we see a glimpse of that. But I also hope Timur and Trevor just get the fight. Because we don't know. But we should tell people that storyline is somewhat unresolved. Mm-hmm. The fight is kind of like postponed. It's not next week's fight. I'll mention that in a second. It's not next week's fight. Next week's fight is a lightweight fight again. So, and again, we don't know what order they filmed the fights in necessarily. So maybe they did get to fight again a week later on the show. I'm sure we'll kind of find out eventually. But yes, that fight, they have to wait for that infection to kind of clear up, because it's nothing life threatening, but very contagious, And so we will see if that even happens. And yes, they were talking catch weight, or like maybe Timur just gets to go through. I'm not sure. Like,
if that's a staph infection or some sort of bacterial infection or virus or whatever, he can't train or really use the same facilities as the other guys. So it's an issue. I don't know how they're gonna handle it in the show.
Yeah,
I don't know how they're gonna, what information they're gonna give to us, because even like the weight cutting thing, I don't think we're going to see guys have hard weight cuts anymore, because now the public perception is different of we know that weight cutting is extremely dangerous. Back then, when they showed like Gabe Rudiger like passing out in the sauna or something like that, it was kind of ha ha ha. That must suck, But we didn't realize like fighters like freaking die from weight cuts, or seriously like ruin their bodies. So I don't think I think the UFC is a little smarter now about that as far as like PR to present the fighters that way, because that's something like they kind of force, like there's no reason they're doing this. Is a TV show. They don't have to do this. The extreme weight cutting, they can make up any weight. These are exhibition fights.
They could do a catch weight. The weird thing about this bout is this season is that unlike regular seasons where you could kind of plug someone in, they have all the matchups already set. So that's a bit. I don't know if they want to mess with that, but Mando Gutierrez technically is available now, though I thought he got rocked pretty badly. And I mean, the UFC
his eye afterward was like swollen like all hell.
Yeah. Dude, the UFC that guy's messed up right now.
Listen, Casey, the UFC would never would never book a fighter to compete with just recently a knockout. They would never do that. They would never do that. They would never do that.
One thing I think Dana did say to Chandler, or maybe it was Chandler to Tamir, that like maybe they'll try it next week, and if it doesn't happen, then Valiev will just get a bye and move through.
Yeah, they never resolved it, but he did mention an option. So
again, because this season the matchup's already set, so they kind of maybe don't have a choice. Like they really can't just reshuffle like they normally would on other seasons. People are pretty set. They've been told who their opponents are. It's not fair to the other fighters. And again, it kind of breaks the system of them doing the 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, etc. So Timur, maybe one of the favorites to win the show. I think might just get a bye. But next week we'll just say it will be another lightweight matchup between, and it'll be Connor's number 2 ranked. Sorry, this is Chandler's number 2 ranked fighter, Austin Hubbard, so a veteran, versus McGregor's number 3 ranked fighter, Aaron McKenzie. I know a lot about Austin Hubbard. Not super familiar with Aaron McKenzie, but that is our matchup for next week. GC, any thoughts on that matchup, or just final thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, curious to see what happens with that one. I mean, I think they said McKenzie in the promo for next week is like a BJJ specialist, so didn't really work out too well for Gentlemen. We'll see what happens next week. 2 things I have actually. I was getting confused throughout the episode. Mondo or Mando? It felt like they kept saying Mondo, and then they would go to Dana White and he would say Mando, and I just didn't know which one it was.
Was there an accent thing going on? What was Connor? How was Connor saying it? Was he saying?
Oh man, I didn't hear that. But that
he's probably in between.
That takes me to my second part. Big miss on the part as we were telling Mondo's story. The significance of the hat. I mean, what is the hat? He's wearing the hat in all these interviews, and then he walks in fight day with the hat, and then when he walks out, he puts the hat on McGregor. McGregor's wearing the hat throughout the whole fight, all the way backstage. Like, what was the significance of the hat?
Was it just a cowboy hat? Am I remembering correctly?
I mean, is that his thing? He just rocks a cowboy hat on fight day. There's nothing to it.
I don't know. I'm not familiar. I'd have to watch.
I have to say,
Raul Rosas on Contender Series. I don't know if he had the hat then. So.
I have to say it was pretty hilarious. Like in the back, like, his eye is like swollen to all hell. And like McGregor's coming in, like patting him on the back. He's like, it's all right. We'll get another chance. And he's still wearing the hat with like this, like probably like $10,000 suit. I thought that was pretty ridiculous. And then last thing I said that was the last thing. This is the last thing. We need to start setting an over-under line on pants adjustments for McGregor throughout the episode, because I swear to God, honestly, we could do a combo too, or we could just do 2 separate things, over-unders on pants adjustment and sleeve adjustments. I mean, the guy is just like, he's always kicking the sleeves out, making sure they're down where they're at. And then the pants, I'm telling you, go back and watch. When he pulls up to the Tough House, he immediately adjusts his pants like 3 different times. Like he's always making sure he's clean and proper. But yeah, we need to start setting some over-unders on that. Now that I've said it, keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I won't be able to unsee it now.
How about the fact that they don't really explain the fact, is Conor a coach or is he a fan in the crowd? I can't tell. Because he's never like sitting in the corner. He's just kind of walking around in his suit, and they just have reaction shots of his fighters after his fighters lose. He just goes, oh.
I'll also say like. The no commentary is cool, man. It's tough. Like if you're a fighter, like to decipher, like who's coming from your coach. It feels like there's like 9 different people screaming at any moment, and obviously you're focused on the guy in front of you. So it's cool to like hear that. Like it sounds very hectic in there.
Yeah, there are coaches in the past who have made a point to like, I think before they went out, like, listen, I'm going to be the one talking out there, or this coach.
Okay.
Some coaches are more organized than others, but yes, as you can see, sometimes it's just an absolute just shout fest and hoping that something breaks through the noise.
Real quick, I want to compliment the show as far as a slightly positive production change. Well, maybe they did last year. I didn't watch it any last year. Is the post-fight interview with the fighter? They used to do it in the hallway in the Tough House, but now it was kind of that long shot of the cage in the background.
Yeah, that is a nice shot. I like that.
It's just a nice cinematic shot. I just like, oh, good job. It's like that's different. Was it like that last year?
I think they've done it before. Actually, no, that shot looks a little different. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know. I think
that kind of when they after the where they talked to Cody and the other guy, that Mando that lost.
Mm-hmm,
so it was just a nice.
See,
those are the small changes that they're doing. They are small improvements I do like. So
Casey, you're back in. You're back.
I mean, how can you not be after this episode? I mean,
what a positive note.
It was a much better episode than the last episode. It was.
I mean, we got June 6th. We got 10 more weeks of this. However much longer we have. I mean, life is good.
Wait.
Life is good.
Life is very good. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining me on this second episode. Thank you, everyone, tuning in to watch it and listening to it on the podcast later. We had a lot of, I know we had a lot of people watching the first episode. Of course, there's the premiere. So good to see people sticking around, not just for the McGregor drama, not just for the Chandler drama, and a potential update on when this fight is happening this year, presumably, but also for the fighters and their compelling stories themselves, and their dogs, who hopefully have better luck going forward. So, that is all for this week. Again, next week it will be Austin Hubbard, 31-year-old veteran versus 34-year-old prospect Aaron McKenzie, young whippersnapper Aaron McKenzie, and we'll see if Team McGregor can get on the board after starting off 2-0. But that has been a tough hang, guys. Not this week. It was not a tough hang this week. It was a very enjoyable hang, and always enjoyable hang out with all of you guys. So until episode 3, we'll see you later.